Ready?
Always.
Welcome to this week's episode of Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm Arron Stanton with Synergize.
I'm Traver Butcher with Nexus Impact Center.
And today we have a very awesome guest. So just for those who don't know, this podcast is to get to know the people behind the titles, roles, and the things that you may already know about them, and get to know them a little bit more on a personal level and talk about some of the things that have impacted their life and their journey, their experiences, their beliefs, and how they are impacting others. So today we have Don Wettrick with us. Don Wettrick, what up, baby?
What's going on, man?
Not much. How are you? Thanks for coming to hang out with us today.
Glad to see everybody. Glad to be back at the Nexus Impact Center.
Yeah.
So,
How long's it been?
Glad to have you.
yeah, man. Actually, right when we had literally Hunter, I think, was still on.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm sorry, he was in college, and so we were nomadic, and so we worked out of here for a year, and so good to
Nice.
see everything. Love the podcast setup. Glad
Yeah.
to see you guys doing cool stuff here. Love the mission, by the way. As
Yeah.
we'll talk about later, of how passionate we are about getting startups started.
Mm.
Awesome.
Oh, that's funny because I think Nexus actually,
Hmm.
one of the initiatives that they're one of their impact initiatives is they're passionate about helping to maybe be an incubator for
Yeah.
startup ideas as well.
Exactly.
Huh. We didn't plan that.
Actually, we didn't.
No, we actually no,
It's
we
true.
didn't, but it's
Can I jump in on that?
yeah.
Absolutely.
So, if I can start with, like, I can maybe get into the history, but at a macro, we get students to see problems as opportunities. We don't say the word entrepreneurship for a while because we're not pushing entrepreneurship. We're pushing your attitude. We're pushing your mindset.
Interesting. Yeah.
The adults also, and students. So I don't want to be like kids today, because kids today are pretty awesome, but people today are really good at pointing out what sucks,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and it's called social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I don't like in the world, and sometimes people temporarily feel good about themselves when they say this is bad, therefore I'm good, and then you're left with this really short hit of dopamine that somehow you're a good person, and maybe you are. But we want our students to go, okay, great, you've identified something. What sayest thou? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And at the heart of what we do, we also have a teacher or two, or if it's a really big school, maybe 3 or 4, that they are that hub of entrepreneurship and innovation. So if you said, I don't like the way we do blank, or this town needs a new blank, a teacher can go, all right, what do you need? Like, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We have 2 thoughts here. Number one, we want to get people to see problems as opportunities. And ironically enough, if you live in an area where there's more problems, you're privy to
Greater
more
opportunity.
insights
Absolutely.
to serve and more
Yeah.
insights to bring change.
Yep.
And number two, factually speaking, no one knows more people than teachers. So in a day and age where you
Great
go,
point.
well, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Teachers are A, freaking fantastic, good human beings, and
Yes.
B, they're really well connected.
Yeah.
So we have this fellowship of teachers,
Great point.
right?
Wow.
They
And
know
if
everybody.
they don't know them, they know their kids.
And if you've taught for 10 years, you know a lot of free things you can get for the startup.
Yeah.
So we'll have students like, oh, we had this not too long ago. The student goes, I'm ready to do my first event. I kind of need a lawyer to look over this. And the teacher's like, I've had 7 in my class. Which one do you want to talk to? That is what we do. So we have a network of teachers that is into getting you started. And by the way, no stress if it fails, said 98% of all entrepreneurs ever. It's that first, the muscle memory of you're like, I'm going to start something, and getting your butt handed to you when you're 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, no problem.
Yeah.
Better now.
Yeah.
Because when you start meeting entrepreneurs, you're like, oh yeah, I remember my first 8 failed companies.
Yeah.
I love that. So we'll get into what we do more, but like at a macro, this is one thing I liked about Nexus is they're like, yeah, man, what do you got?
Yeah.
And the fact that it's faith driven, I like too. And you got this good vibe here of like, let's utilize the community, let's utilize space, let's utilize a room that hosts a podcast. I love that kind of stuff.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, thanks for coming.
So what are you doing, Synergize?
Yeah.
Well, I'm one of the students. I'm not. I'm still seeing problems and complaining about them and wondering if I can come up with an opportunity.
Ironically enough, you met me because you saw
Yeah.
at front first with students. Not
Yeah.
you didn't meet me first. You saw some students in action.
Yeah, but then you had that mic drop moment where I was like, "That's dope. I wish he was my teacher." But I'm forever a student, so you kind of are my teacher.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
no, same. No,
Yeah.
yeah. It's good point. Good point.
Yeah.
I actually have a question. What's a lie that you now know as a lie that was a truth or belief of yours for a period of time that when you came to the realization that your narrative had been guided by something that wasn't true and now it is true?
If you're just really well behaved and go to a good college, everything will work out.
Oh, that is. Oh,
Say it again.
Did you see how excited I
Yes.
was?
Is that a lie or the
Yeah.
truth?
That's the lie.
Oh, okay. I'm just joking.
Because look, okay, so folds transparency. I talk about it almost too much. My dad's like, I don't want to make this a comparison game, but my dad's awesome.
Yeah.
And
Almost as cool as my son's dad.
exactly.
Yes. Aaron.
All right. So he's a good one.
He's a good one. He's not quite Aaron status. But no, I had to get I got good grades because I had to. He was a teacher. But mind you, he was a teacher in the glory days of shop class.
Okay.
We can get into that later if you want. But I struggled in school. We have the same affliction. I'm 52, so they didn't have the term attention deficit disorder, but I'm pretty sure. Sorry. That's my joke on ADD.
Sorry, I got
Thank you.
distracted. Didn't even notice you out looking.
So, I had distractibility, and I was, at 52, if you just went to a college, everything turned out okay. And for the most part, they did. This is why I hated the millennial bashing, because millennials were the first one to have the rug pulled out. Psych, I'm just joking. Now you've got $110,000 in debt and you don't have a job. Stupid millennials, you guys are always complaining. They lived up to your expectation, and then we changed the rules. And now and by the way, there's several universities I love, but now that there's different kind of majors that are going to take you seriously, so just going and finding yourself and graduating in general studies is not cost effective.
Yeah.
So I think this lie that we have had of just sit down, shut up. We want to hire nice, compliant people that have a thing on the wall that says diploma. I don't know of many people that want to hire people with a diploma that sits down and shuts up.
Yeah.
They want people that move and network and learn and fail and try again.
Yeah.
And know how to use tools that we're not letting them use in school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's looking at the term movers and shakers differently.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think what initially what I think of when I hear that is somebody who's doing something like and huge initiative, huge. I mean, they're the successful ones, and the reality is, mover and shakers doing something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even if it's this, you're still shaking. You're still having impact. You still are contributing, but doing nothing is.
So we have a fun little saying, and I always sound like I'm dating myself because every time it comes out of my mouth, it sounds like I'm Johnny Cochran. Like if that doesn't fit, you must quit. And people young like, who is that? We have a funny little catchy saying.
Little OJ.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have a little saying that's
Not orange juice.
No.
Sorry.
We have a thing that we say, we're creating seekers and peakers, not moaners and groaners. Hear me out on this one. Moaners and groaners are 90% of the people I know. Some of them are very nice people, but they spend hours looking to prove that they're right and everybody else is stupid.
Yep.
The person that they hate the most in politics, whether that be a D or an R, they spend hours dedicated to the person they hate the most, that they're stupid. And I'm like, that's what you've done. You'll find evidence that your other party is dumb.
Yes.
Good for you. What did you accomplish? Those are moaners and groaners. They do a good job of pointing out what sucks in the world. Awesome. It's called awareness. We need awareness. Seekers listen to you complain and go, if that's true, I must do this. Peakers are the ones that I'm really giddy about, because peakers peek around the corner and they see a trend coming.
Ooh.
I had two students. This is factually true. It's factually true, redundant. We had a students approach me years ago and saying this esports thing is going to be big, and I'm like, okay. And he was showing me that it was selling out stadiums and not the United States, and I'm like, okay, we should start an esports team here at school. He's like, universities are starting to get into it, and that kid was peeking around the corner. So 6, 7 years later, high schools are like, we should start an esports team. That kid peeked around the corner, saw the trend. And I think that a lot of times kids on social media can see a trend and know how to mimic it. But the kid that really sets the trend or sees it ahead of time, those are peakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those excite me because those are futuristic entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
If this thing and this thing is coming, this must be true. And seekers and peakers, I love. People that just complain.
Yeah.
I get really uncomfortable around people complaining.
Yeah.
I usually leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there is always something to complain about if that's what the focus is. So it's like if you're a complainer, you will always be a complainer because there will always be something to complain about. Because we'll never have you know what I mean?
And what is that? And I ironically, I don't want to get to complain about complaining because then you're like, you're doing it. But the term misery loves company. For you to complain makes you feel either morally superior or justified on why you're not doing the blank. Then you attract other people like, yeah, you can't do that in this world. You can't get along. And then you attract a bunch of complainers.
Yeah.
And maybe there's justification, by the way, saying that. There are bad things in the world that we should be aware of.
Yeah.
But if there's not a therefore we must do blank, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even if it's the most righteous, this thing sucks in the world. I get it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll even spend a week talking about it.
Yeah.
But if there's no therefore,
Yeah.
I get really uncomfortable around that.
I love that you pinpointed working in the aspect of working with students. And previous job, I worked in universities and going around working with college students. And I loved it because
they were all a little more mature than you and it just felt good.
I mean, besides that's the obvious one. But seeing the vision that they had, and now that's definitely not all of them. There were ones that I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
But the individuals that were seeing those seekers and peakers that you mentioned, and I'm just like, I want to be around this kid in 5, 10 years, like, and not just I knew him or her once, but like I want to stay up with this person because they're going to go places and they're going to bring people along with them.
Yeah.
And they're not going to stay with the status quo. They're seeing, hey, here's an issue, here's a problem. How can I help solve that? Or at least bring not just awareness to it, but because that is good in and of itself, as you mentioned. But they're saying, what's the solution, and how can I help make that solution a possibility and an actuality and come to fruition?
That exact thing you're talking about, I call it. When I see that as people who give themselves permission. And then they open the door to permission for others around them.
Yeah.
A lot of times, we are raised, I think, even at a young age, from in the home, permission, boundaries, in school. There are things that permission is meant to be granted. But on the other side, there are a lot of things that the world or people won't give you a permission that is yours to give yourself,
take it,
and yours to give to others. And some of those kids you're talking about, like, what they give themselves permission to think boldly, to dream, to think outside of the box, not as a way to prevent themselves from measuring up to the responsibility, but it's because they're curious, and I think they're creators. I think some of us are, when you look at like YouTube, you look at this podcast, for example, or any podcast, right? For every YouTube video that somebody has created, there's a lot of consumers or watchers or participators.
Yep.
Yeah.
And every business, so for every company that, somebody has created that has 1,000 employees, every company someone's created that has 10,000, or even a marriage and parenthood, like being married and having a child, you have now created something that others get to experience and
Yeah.
you get to experience that wasn't there had you not created it.
Yeah.
And
No, scrollers versus creators for sure. I think so. Giving some history and context and kind of how this started. Actually, it's funny. It started with an email. I was on my lunch break, and it was a link to this TED Talk by a guy named Daniel Pink. And it said, "Watch this." And so I watch it. If you haven't watched it, you should. But it's like, what motivates people? It's mastery, autonomy, and purpose.
Okay.
And they are like, they found out that pay up to a certain level. Like if you pay $5 an hour, it's gonna. But if you allow people the opportunity to master, leave them alone or have some autonomy and say over they'll do, and then it has purpose to them, they work much harder. They find it motivates them. And so I'm thinking, we don't do that in school. We don't do that in school. We don't do that in school. Mastery, depending on whether you want to master a times table or whatever. Autonomy, less so. Purpose, unless the students are choosing it, not so much. And so I showed it to my kids the next period. I'm like, what if I gave you, because he talked about how Google had done this thing called 20% time.
yeah,
And I'm like, what if I gave you Fridays you could work on whatever the heck you want to work on? And immediately my straight A students were like, how do I get an A? And my C and D students were like,
dope.
let's go.
Let's
go.
I like this class.
And it was towards the end of the year. And so it's really dumb to do an experiment in April and May, but I did one anyway. But I asked my principal, I'm like, I think I'm onto something, man. Can I have my own innovation class? That's what we'll call it. And a couple of things, a couple of lucky breaks. Number one, they said yes. So we called it innovation class at first. Number two, the theme was if school didn't get in your way, what would you want to learn and what would you want to accomplish?
Wow.
Because school didn't get
your way
Yeah.
at school.
Because I still expected for you to submit something you wanted to accomplish and I would hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, yeah, but I'd never have time to do it because of school. I'm like, here's your opportunity. There is no homework. There is just you. It is the most selfish class you can take. It's whatever you want to do. If you want to tell me you want to learn how to cross knit or crochet with your grandma and you want to do a quilt, you can do that.
Yeah.
Just show me what you're doing. I'll help you set goals, KPIs or whatever you want to call it, and we'll do that. And third stroke of luck is that a lot of this to tell you how long ago it was. YouTube just started to monetize.
Mhm.
Okay.
And some of our kids are like, I think I want to learn how to be a YouTuber. And I'm telling you, this is not like now, like I want to be a YouTuber. This is like, I think you're going to be able to make money. This is really early. And so we started to reach out to people.
Yeah.
Because again, teachers know a lot of people.
Right.
And I was just blindly emailing people. I'm like, will you call into my class? And some people are like, that's a class. So all of a sudden people that are now famous online, we had some big YouTube names, but like Zach King, I think he's the third biggest TikTok. Oh, he was number one on Vine before they killed that. But like,
Do it for the Vine.
he was a sophomore at like Biola University.
Oh wow.
And so he was calling in and giving my kids tips. So it was a little bit the right place at the right time.
Wow.
But so then that's when we kind of changed the name to is an innovation and open source learning class because most of the students were not learning from me anymore.
Yeah.
But they were using an excuse of like, so I can call so and see if she'll call me back. And I'm like, well, if they're really awesome, let's just do a Skype call for the whole class.
Yeah.
So we started building this reputation. I mean, I could name drop, man.
Wow.
It got
Do it.
Wow.
well. My favorite one was the first. So Dan Pink was the first, and honestly, Daniel.
Oh, so you actually got to
Yeah.
talk to Daniel and explain.
And then he was Skyping
That's
into my class. I'm like, this is cool. And to this day, he's love you, Dan. No, to this day, he's going to do our teacher call in 2 weeks. But then we started to reach out to like what we felt were influencers of good. And so there was this one chapter of a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I forget which chapter it was, but basically Tim goes to a university and he's like, who would you want to work with? Who would you want to be mentored by? And he offers up like a cash reward. And the moral of the story was the students didn't even try. And my students read that and they're like, well, let's call Tim. I'm like, First of all, I'm in a class that they know who Tim Ferriss is. I'm proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And so
Absolutely.
yeah, they're like, let's call Tim Ferriss. I'm like, okay. And so we had this system where if we wanted to track somebody down, one student would send the tweet or the LinkedIn. Mostly this is Twitter before it was a political landmine. But one kid would start, and then the 30 of us would like, comment, retweet. So there'd be 90 interactions.
Yeah.
So they're like, Mr. Wetrick, you send the tweet. And I'd lucked my way into, I had a couple of good bits of fortune, and I had a verified account before you had to pay for it.
Yeah.
So like, you send it. So everybody gets ready. We send this tweet to Tim Ferriss. Nothing. Day and a half goes by because I have the kids every other day. And so this one girl goes up to me. She's like, I got a great idea, Wetrick. I'm like, what's that? She's like, let's guilt them into it. I'm like, She was like, just do this. Take a picture of us. And they made this.
Did they bring? Was it a bring your
Oh my
puppy to?
No, yeah, it was like they gave me
Oh
pouty
my-
face, and they go, Mr. Wetrick, put this. Hey, at T Ferriss, we're so disappointed that we're taking your advice and you're ignoring us.
Ooh, crap.
And so I send it. I don't think anything about it. We get back to whiteboarding, and my little phone buzzes. Tim Ferriss follows you. I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, Tim Ferriss follows me. For
Yeah.
my own selfish reasons, I'm like, this is going to be cool. 10 seconds after he follows me, I get this DM, still have it. Haha, you got me. Let's set up a Skype call. So I'll never forget it. It's Halloween 2015.
10 years
Had
ago.
him for 2 hours. And the kids were like, okay, that's the formula. So who's next? They're like, we can get to him, but who shouldn't we get to? Now, mind you, we also learned, like, if you want to talk to Peyton Manning, like, this was actually really good. This guy, I want to talk to Peyton Manning. I'm like, why? Because you always have to, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to turn it into the Chris Farley show.
Sure.
Remember that time he threw a touchdown? It's so awesome. Like, why? Why do you want to? And so
Yeah.
the kid goes, I want to know what it was like to overcome spinal injury and what kind of, like, physical regimen. I go, well, then who do you really need to talk to? And he goes, well, I guess this physical trainer. I'm like, he'll probably get back to you.
Mm.
And if that physical trainer really likes it, there's a chance.
Yeah.
And so they would start to, like,
Yeah.
really dig deep on, like, also, like, instead of, like, you know, I'm giving an example. This is not in the same era, but like Billie Eilish, because her music sounds so great. Who's her producer? Her brother. Okay, I want to talk to her brother. Honestly, like, the students started to get into that more of, like,
Yeah.
not necessarily just the name, but how it happened. And so one thing led to another. We got a lot of people call us back. It got to be strange. And then I wrote a book, and the book did better than I thought. And then someone at the IEDC, which is the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, Dave Roberts, God bless him, said, hey, man, we've got this idea for a youth Shark Tank for Indiana. When do you get involved? And I'm like, I don't like youth Shark Tanks. And he's like, you're kidding. Why? And I said, and I still mean this. I've seen a lot of speech competitions that they'll say something like,
Mm.
world hunger is bad, and I'm going to invent an app that invents and prints its own food. And you're like, you're not.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, or I said that, or you get a lot of, t-shirt designs.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, what would you do differently? And I said, solve a problem. And that's kind of the see a problem as an opportunity was born. In year one, it was about 100 students. And this year, students that went through the process, I think we're like around 6,000.
Wow.
Now, some decided not to make the final pitch because now we have this big thing called Innovate Within.
Yeah.
It's huge. Some kids go, I went through it. I'm not ready. I'm not going to make the pitch. It failed. Some kids do. But I hate to, like, brag about the winners because it's the students that didn't win. They're like, and they reached out to mentors and they got
Yeah.
real feedback.
Yeah.
Because, like, the winning, we've had some mic drop moments. We get 2 kids into Y Combinator this year, which is nuts. A couple students into Forbes 30 under 30, which is nuts.
Wow.
But it's the students that are like, matter of fact, one of my favorite moments, and I've said this so many times, but we had a kid is an IPS school.
Say it again. Say it for the people in the back.
But the first round, because we have so many, it's a video submission.
Okay.
Lean business model canvas. There's some written stuff. But he had the phone up to himself. He had that 1,000-yard stare. And his opener was, so I've been listening to people complain, and I think that I'm onto something. That. I've been listening to people complain, and I think that I'm onto something. I hope the kid thinks that way the rest of his life. He didn't move on. It had some holes. I mean, for a business competition, but this is why we've then built this ecosystem to what it was. We now have mayors involved. We have state representatives involved because they're like, you're okay. You weren't ready to win yet, but you know what? You're onto something.
Yeah.
And how many entrepreneurs got good grades? Not many. So some of these are students that aren't identified as the man or that girl's.
I don't see the potential
Right.
at the surface.
And now we flipped it to where, and I hope all the kids get the best grades they can, but some students are like, their GPA might fool you, but now we're getting them discovered and they're like, wait a second, this is awesome. And so that's where my heart is.
That's awesome.
I guess in some funny way, we're all trying to help ourselves.
Yeah.
I was that C student.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, GPA doesn't dictate or show how smart somebody is. Because as much as I love our education system, it's flawed.
Yeah.
And so if as 3 ADHD people, we all had issues, but that doesn't mean that we're not smart.
Right.
And just because
do you mean that? Do you mean that, Traver?
Somebody told me he's smart.
At least the two of us.
Yeah.
Well,
we're still figuring.
Aaron, he's been waiting years to hear that.
There's always going to be one oddball in the bunch.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm typically that guy.
No, all three of us are. I'm quite sure of it. So we've got this, but at the same time, this is also the teachers we've attracted.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, this is not successful until we found, actually, that's how it started. So when this thing kicked off, I'm using my, not sarcastic, I'm using my air quotes. There were some schools that were better at this competition than others.
Yeah.
And we looked into it. It was the teacher. There was a teacher like, I love this stuff. And she was on fire for it.
Yeah.
And then there'd be some engineering teachers that like, they knew enough about marketing that they were like, kid, you've got a working prototype. You might as well. And so we started rounding up those teachers. We end up talking to the Secretary of Education of like, let's start this teacher accelerator.
Yeah.
Let's treat it like a startup.
Yeah.
And so half our teachers are not even in the business department, but they get together, they map their own ecosystem, they map who their former students are, they map, like everybody knows somebody.
Yeah.
And we play the Kevin Bacon game. And actually we should track him down. We should have Kevin Bacon call in. Note to self.
We should take a picture of us with sad faces.
Hey, Kevin Bacon.
Hey, Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
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 What I know you talk a lot. I've heard, I've spent a lot of time with you and hear you talk a lot. And you're always a champion of the students. You're a champion of how they are able to reinvent themselves, how society can reinvent what's acceptable and not, and help them. Like, what about yourself? Like, what if you were to talk about like how this has been a champion of you? How has it grown and evolved you from when it began?
And remind us when it started.
Yeah.
Like to see that timeline.
2015.
Yeah, I mean, like the class kind of kicked. The first year, it wasn't really a class; it was an experiment. Second year is class. So we're 10-ish years old.
Okay.
I think the hardest thing, and my wife is there to remind me, is that I really don't like compliments because I don't feel like I'm there yet. And she's like, every now and then it's like, it's cool, Donnie. Like, she'll come to Donnie.
Yeah.
We've been dating since we've been 16. We're not dating.
She
We are dating.
She calls you Donnie too?
She calls me Donnie.
Okay.
So we've been together since we've been 16. But she's like, it's okay. Like, you can relax. So one, the amount of students that haven't gone through this drives me nuts because I really believe in what this is. And two, the imposter syndrome that I don't even want to say it because it sounds insulting to myself and other teachers. But for the first couple of years, I'm like, dude, I'm just a teacher. I don't know what I'm doing. And I had somebody call me out. They're like, that's insulting to other teachers. Because like all of a sudden I had to just, I'm CEO. I'm like, no, I'm just teacher. And they're like, shut your mouth when you say just teacher.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're right.
Because you're not trying to insult others, but
right.
But I don't know what I'm doing.
And I do. And luckily,
Right.
the other part of this is that, like, dude, I'm trying not to get emotional thinking about this. My co-founder is my former student.
Mm.
He's half my age. Maybe a little smidge older than half my age, but it was just like it was a weird coincidence. No, it wasn't. It was divine. But I struggled for years of like I don't know what I'm doing until I met a lot of founders like none of us do.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And I think that was the other leap of why I'm trying to talk to more students of like the guy that goes out in the middle of the dance floor
Yeah.
and doesn't care. Girls dig that guy.
Yeah.
The guy's
Yeah.
like, you look stupid. You don't know how to dance. Mm-hmm. Well, why does everybody want to talk to me?
Yeah.
Just get out there and dance, man. And
Yeah.
it's taken a bit. And I still don't like the compliment stuff.
Yeah.
Because like, oh, you guys serve 6,000 students or whatever it is. Sure, I'm like, out of like 300,000.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you change it from compliment to encouragement, right? So,
Dude, you guys
Yeah.
could have served 300,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, I'm the same way a lot of times. It's like sometimes, it like it's that mindset of like, it's not about me,
Mhm.
but we also have to take ownership and know that it may not be about us, but there are certain things that will be because of us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
we need to own that, because if we don't own what is or what isn't because of us,
Mhm.
because of our, "Oh, I don't want to make it about me."
Yeah.
Okay. Well, make it about others, but make it because of you.
Let me
Yeah.
double down on that.
Mm.
Okay.
I just had breakfast with maybe he doesn't want me to talk about it, a CEO of a guy here in town that's fairly well known. And he said, he's like, my high school counselor called me out, challenged me. And I love that. Because I also know a lot of students that sometimes out of spite, like my counselor told me I wouldn't amount to a piece. And then they're like, I'm going to prove otherwise. So sometimes you can be an inspiration of what not to do.
Yeah.
But like everybody has a favorite teacher.
Yeah.
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 And they don't know sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't know
Mhm.
the impact they've had.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I was been really, really lucky. And then there's two things that happened. So when I was like, gosh, I think it was 8 or 9 or something like that. And kids, there used to be these things called malls. But like if you went to the mall with my dad, because my dad was a teacher,
Mhm.
and if you went to the mall, it would freak his students out that he doesn't live at school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this
Yeah.
one time it happened to me, and my dad got stopped by some students, and they were like, talking to him, and again, kind of freaked out. Mr. Wetrick didn't live at Manual High School, and so this one guy,
They let you out?
yeah, they're like, "What are you doing here?" And then they're probably like, "You have kids? That must mean you." But
My God.
yeah, right. Sorry, Dad. He's gonna listen to this. But no, he looked at me and he's like, "Man, it must be it must be so cool to have a dad like you." A dad like, yeah, and I'm like, it is, like it is.
Mhm.
And one, that is why when people like, check your privilege. My privilege is, my mom is Sue Wetrick and my dad's Chuck Wetrick.
Mm.
Wow.
Wow.
And two, that's when I really, really liked I gravitated towards kids that you know
Did I have that? Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
But and I'm not trying to replace that, but at the same time, like, just kind of being encouraging and
Yeah.
goofy, and because I always would, and that's the one thing of feedback I got over the years is that I never shy away from talking about my wife and my kids. I talk to them. A loving marriage is completely normal. This trash you see on TV and the ball and chain and my stupid wife, it's horse. It's marriage is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, it is.
Stop and so I think that was my favorite part sometimes of teaching class is we weren't talking about class.
Yeah.
Like I loved that.
Yeah.
And I'm so like God is my witness on my right over here. I was talking to a former student that's going to move back to the house. Swear to you. My favorite, and then I would tell them this usually on the last day. I was like, my favorite part of being your teacher is no longer being your teacher. Please invite me to your wedding. Please stay in touch. And by the way, some of them still, there's a few that don't like me. That's how you can't have about 100, right? Or 1,000. But that was my favorite part. And I have to say that like that was, and then I'll shut up because my favorite thing, my mom and dad paid for all of my college degree, my first degree. And so I was married. I'd been in this job occupation for 2 years. I won't say what it is. But I was like, I want to teach. I knew I had the calling. And so my dad's like, my dad never complains, never bashes education. He's just, he'll watch this. Go, I complain every now and then. He doesn't really. But he's like, I don't. And I was like, I'm not asking you guys for money. Thank you for paying for the first degree, but I'm not going to use it. I want to be a teacher. And he's like, I don't care if you teach for the next 20 years, Donnie. Just don't teach 1 year 20 times.
Oh, crap.
Meant
Bro.
nothing to me the first year.
Wow.
And
So good.
I know. So when I wrote my book, that was the thing when I would have people like, oh, I love that because everybody knew that teacher.
Yeah.
Everybody like, oh, I couldn't stand that class.
Yeah.
And so that was my introduction to teaching. One, watching my dad and my mom. My mom's a stay-at-home mom, therefore she's my teacher.
Yeah.
But two, like, don't teach 1 year 20 times. I'm like, year 2, I was like, that's what he meant. Yeah. Yeah. Good times.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Confucius, Chuck Wetrick.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
I got another question.
Sure.
A lot of times people talk about like if you could go back and change something. Not that. If you could go back and just re-experience something, not change it, but experience it again. Because a lot of times, in the moments,
That's a good
we
change.
don't fully always, especially us ADHD. What? Huh? Who?
Yeah.
There are some moments that we experience it more when we reflect back on it.
Yeah.
What? Or do you have?
Just to experience the moment, just
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah. Do you have a moment that you would just?
This is funny.
Go
These
back
are
and experience.
conversations I literally have had. I just talked to Jamie, my former student, on the way over here, and now you're bringing up a conversation I just had 2 nights ago. It would be, and I swear to you all this. This is very well timed. But so I want to go visit. I do classroom visits, and I went to Perry Meridian High School, which is where I went, and it's also where I met my wife. And
where you got C's and D's. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was telling Alicia, and I do. I remember first day of school, freshman year. I can tell you what desk I was sitting at, and I can tell you in Mr. Strader's room, in walks this girl who I was intimidated by. I just would like to, like, I can see it visually. Boy, would I just like to be in that room and just go. I didn't talk to her for a while. I mean, I got scared of her, but
Yeah.
I didn't ask her out till my sophomore year. But yeah, I would like to be in that room again.
Yeah.
Because there was something so
a
sentimental.
year earlier.
Yeah. Because there was something so sentimental of like when I stopped by it, I'm like, I mean, the desks aren't really there anymore, and it's a different, the layout of the room is different. But I was like, dude, that's the room. So I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That or watch the Miami Vice or the A-Team in its entirety, in its original. No Friday night videos. We were poor. We didn't have cable. Didn't have TV. No, we weren't poor. That's an affront to people that are truly poor. We couldn't afford cable. Sorry if I'm.
No.
Did anybody watch Friday Night? You're too young. Friday Night Videos was the alternative to MTV. They showed music videos on NBC on Friday nights for people that couldn't afford cable.
We did.
No, he grew up in a home. They had cable.
No.
No cable.
My dad was a pastor. We didn't have cable.
Okay.
Even if you could afford it, your dad was a pastor. You didn't have cable.
There you go. Oh boy.
Now, Ed, I think I remember that, but we typically did TGIF and
Yeah. Boy Meets World.
You're 10 years. You're at least 10 years younger than me. Then.
So
Yeah. Boy Meets World was. You're at least 10 years younger than me. It's all right.
What do you want to know about Don?
He's like, how old are you? Because now carry the one.
Math is hard.
Yeah.
No, you mentioned you've been mentioning teachers and the impact on that they have. Who was that teacher for you?
This is weird.
And it might
because she
be
just wrote
more
me
than
yeah, there's
just
two.
one.
There's
but
two. And this is super weird because I was on literally this happened a week ago. This is very strange. A week ago, and I'm hoping I'll send this to her. I was on a radio show here locally, and Mrs. Singleton wrote me. I, mm, I lost it. Because she's, I'm 52, and it wasn't her first year teaching by any means, and so I was really excited to hear from her. And so she was my fifth grade teacher, and she made me feel smart, and that was the first time. And she had this little thing that if you got a perfect score on your Wednesday spelling test, you could be exempt from the Friday spelling test, but you could go and sit in the coat closet and bring in snacks.
Oh shoot.
And in 1983, buddy, that was like the bee's knees. And I never didn't not ace the Wednesday test. I was motivated by food. I still am. Try to hide this a little bit. And so Mrs. Singleton, because she had an escape route,
Yeah.
I'm like, if you don't want to take it a second time, get an A. I'm like, done. And then Mr. Wall, who put up with me, he allowed me to be the sports editor in high school, and he had no business doing that. And he did. And in a funny way, I started my own little column, and it was called the Jock Strip. So it was like strip.
No, I think it was a great idea. He let you be that guy.
It's called the
That
Jock
was
Strip,
amazing.
and it was
he got for that.
yeah. Well, I think that was exactly how Mr. Wall did it. He was, and so I had the Jock Strip, and he even had me. I did a thing in the paper, and I got a deal going with a local pizza place, and it was called Stump the Studs, and I the stud would pick football games or basketball games, and if you beat me, you'd get pizza.
Wow.
And he allowed me to do it. So thank you, Mr. Wall.
Funny.
That's
awesome.
it. Wasn't that who allows some kid to have a thing called the Jock Strip? Which
You're like, I was a teacher who started a class where they could do anything they want. I wouldn't have let the idea that I'm working my class.
Right?
Students were different back in the 60s. What did you say?
60s. Wow.
Class of 91. Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Who would that be for you?
Yeah. Who put up with you?
There's one teacher specifically. He didn't. The impact he had on my life, I didn't realize it until my last day of senior year. You know how as a teacher, you said you don't know the impact you have on kids.
Yeah, call him, man.
Yeah,
Send a card.
As a child, I mean, as a student, I didn't know sometimes you don't know the impact you have on teachers.
Yeah.
And so my senior year of high school, so all the teachers, you always have like those things that the class votes on, most likely to succeed, The teachers always had a vote where they would choose teacher's pet. So all the teachers would vote of like who was their teacher's pet.
Yeah.
My senior year, they added one more. Teachers voted on two: teacher's pet and teacher's pest.
You swept him.
I didn't get the pet one, which is fine.
Whoa!
But I won teacher's pest. So of all the kids that they had, I was the biggest pest. And I won the vote unanimously.
Graduate already, Stanton.
Yeah, dude, I was honored. I was pumped.
Oh my goodness.
But one teacher's name's Ted Oliger. Well, Mr. Oliger. I think that's the first time I've ever called him that, Mr. Oliger. Normally I call him Ted, Teddy, dude, bro. And it was always like, he was always like, it's Mr. Oliger. It's Mr. Oliger. I'm like, Teddy, listen to me. We're on this kind of level. You know how I am.
No, really?
Yeah, I was like that as a child too. I would hide under his desk and scare him and stuff like that. He called me a cultural dwarf. He was a history teacher. We were watching a film that was in another language. And I just started mimicking it, just trying to be funny, get a good laugh. And he stopped it and he's like, Mr. Stanton, you are a cultural dwarf. I was like, That's your opinion, Teddy, and all of it. So, well, anyways, I also dressed up like him on Twin Day. I asked him if
My God.
he and I could dress up like each other. He said no. So I knew how he was going to dress. So I just dressed up like him. It was awesome. But anyways, the last day of school. So two teachers, one, Mr. Seidner, he was my science teacher. Last day of school in his class, well, never mind. But last day of class,
Lived up to the past.
Yep.
Lived up.
last day of class in Teddy's in Mr. Olliger's class, he had a pointer stick. So he always had like a pointer stick that he would point to the board, smack. He smacked my desk to wake me up with it, all this. He wrote on it in a permanent marker. He's like, Mr. Stanton, I got something for you. And I was like, okay. And he had his pointer stick. And he gave it to me and he wrote on it, use the positive side of the force. Signed, Teddy, right? And when he gave it to me, he told me, he said, well, I want you to know, I have seen a positive side of the force and a negative side of the force in you. You have both. And he goes, just remember that you have that positive side of the force in you, and you can use that. And just remember to always use that. And I was like, okay, dope. And then I invited him to my he came out to my graduation. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And he's the one, I think he's the one who wanted our school to do a teacher's pest and choose me.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and it's like, well, cool. Well,
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah. So that had a big impact on my life. And I think it's because everybody, everybody would have known, like, he didn't really like me. He was always sending me to the office. He had me have a desk set up all by myself away from people because of choices and stuff I'd make, I was constantly getting in trouble there. And so to have a compliment, right? A compliment and an encouragement at that time from him, who I wouldn't have expected it from, I think it made me feel kind of good, and it shaped me.
Yeah.
Send that man a thank you card.
Yeah.
Or a Yoda action figure.
That'd be good.
Yeah. What about you?
I was gonna say.
Yeah. Man,
I'm self-taught. I'm my favorite teacher.
Exactly. Yeah, I have so many teachers come to mind, but the one that I come down to every time, and I've told her, I haven't told her lately, Miss Severson, and English, and yeah, it was 11th grade, and she helped. I always liked English, but she just encouraged us to think outside the box, to look at things differently. She was one of the first teachers that said, don't just read something to read it. Read it to understand, read it to challenge, read it to, just because you might disagree with something doesn't mean that you shouldn't read it. And so going on and doing journalism and other stuff, and editor of our university paper and things like that, I've always kept that in mind. And yeah, just seeing, not just feeling important to her, but just being able to be challenged in a way that, and I had amazing teachers, but some not so amazing teachers, some that definitely did the 1 year 20 times.
Yeah.
But she is, because you retook their class 3 times and it never changed.
Exactly. But yeah, she is one that whenever I think of like the teacher that impacted me most, she's the one that comes to mind.
That's good. I felt now compelled to say, like, yes, thank you also, Mr. Brown and Mrs. Brett, because like there's so many.
Yeah.
But those, I guess, 4 really stand out. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few that I've stayed in contact with through the years, and I'm like, no offense to you guys. You guys were amazing teachers.
Yeah.
My wrestling coach, my junior and senior year, Mr. Stacy, what up, bro? I think from that aspect, like when you're at that age and stuff, he had a very big impact on me. And I think I grew a lot maturity wise and
Yeah.
accountability and becoming more of a man and with him as a coach. I think coaches and teachers both can kind of have that effect.
Well, there's like this old saying that you probably heard it, but students don't know how much you know until they know how much you care. Or students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So the teachers that pour time into you, those are the ones that you're like, that's, and ironically enough, so that's really what we're looking for in our teacher fellowship.
That's awesome.
Like, do you have a passion for this? Do you want to see some of your students' work live beyond a letter grade? And again, no disrespect if you're like, they took their math test and they're good, and that's great. There's room for that. But there's some teachers like, no, I want you to work on a project that you got an A. That's cool. I want to see this go on. So that's who we're looking for.
Nice.
I have a question regarding that. Like, are there people that are in college, like about to graduate to become a teacher that might be able to go into a school to launch this as they become a teacher?
You know, it's funny. So, well, I can't talk about it yet, but yeah, we're thinking about partnering with a university of like, we want more teachers to be thinking of this. Matter of fact, one of my favorite moments, this was when I was teaching my class and we got invited out by a professor at Stanford. And then we toured some really cool places, of which was Facebook and Google. And so we talked to a senior person there, and I was telling him about this wacky class. And I pretty sure he meant it. He goes, man, if they offered that at my daughter's school, I'd be a teacher.
What?
Yeah. I mean, like, this is a guy who was working at Google. I was touched. I think that maybe I don't know if he thought about the mathematical implications of living in San Francisco or Palo Alto and or Sunnyvale and being a teacher. But like, no, that occurred. Like, I was touched, but also like, that's what I want more to be innovative. To not teach 1 year 20. There is a problem in everything. Like, to see a problem as an opportunity. There's a problem in digital music production. There's a problem in social studies. There's a problem in everything. Matter of fact, one of my favorite quotes is from Seth Godin. I think I'm pretty sure it's from Lynchpin. It said, education can be boiled down to two things. If you really boil it down, solving interesting problems, and then the leadership to get it done. I think that there's a one, identifying interesting problems, solving interesting problems, leadership. But I want to find educators, and again, sometimes like I don't have time. I'm too busy. I understand, but we're looking for teachers like, I want my students to solve interesting problems.
Yeah.
Welcome. And then we have these other fun things, and we've got these weird relationships where we can sometimes travel, and we have speaking opportunities for them. We'll have some fun things like we up next we have this thing called the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah.
So there's this guy that started named Jesse Cole, and he's going to be a guest speaker. We had an actress and a comedian on, Tiffany Haddish, last month. Just people that pop in and tell stories of what I built or the problem I saw in the world, and this is what I did differently. Because it's hard to get this Jesse Cole guy's bouncing all over the United States playing baseball games, or his team is. So he's not going to fly in to just talk to one school. So we have 20, 30 schools on at a time. Hey, Mr. Cole, tell us what you built. That kind of stuff is so fun. And we like it that we can do that for our teachers.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Another thing that I have learned is start to try to see things as or for or whatever. It came up. I thought of it when somebody had asked me. I forget what they call it, but it's like, what do you want your obituary? Like they talk about like, what do you want people to say at your funeral, right? About you. And that it was one of those things that I was thinking about it, and I ended up praying about it. It was something I took very, very, very seriously, and probably took me about a week of just. And it came to me, and my answer to that when I thought it out was, when people get up at my funeral, my hope is that they don't talk about who I was to them, but they can talk about who they've become because of me.
Yeah.
Again, that goes to the, like, it's not about me, but because of me, right?
Yeah.
And I see that like the people that when I was younger, people were so much to me, and a lot of times when you lose somebody, a grandparent, a parent, something like that, there's that void and that hurt because you lost somebody that was something to you.
Yeah.
But some of those relationships that transcend that pain of loss are where you can reflect on how part of their DNA or their thumbprint is shaped
Yeah.
who you've become. But with you, Don, what do you hope your students and the other question is like, do you feel the same like with students versus colleagues versus teachers versus business partners? Like, are you hoping to help shape and people to become a certain thing because of you, or is it different depending on who you're involved with?
That would take a whole nother episode. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess as a macro answer, you know, the macro answer, whether you be a teacher or a parent or a former student, is that that guy got me to complain less and do more.
Mm,
I'm happy. Now, in that process, I know I've made some mistakes. I've pride, and some people don't want to be told that I want to, like, constantly reminding a person that they're not doing a lot, there can lead to resentment.
yeah.
I think that I chipped away at some of my colleagues in my teaching days. There was a few people that taught 20 or 20 times, and maybe I could have been, I don't know.
Told them more gently.
Yeah, I don't know. That, like, I hate to sound like Dr. Phil. I wrote that. I did technically. That was the biggest mistake I made. Is that when I launched this class, I wasn't including anybody.
Mm.
I had all these really great experiences for my students, and I should have invited more teachers into it. So when I first launched it, I wasn't very inclusive of other teachers. Ironically, because then 4 or 5 years later, like everybody should do this. So I think that's the regret
Yeah.
of that I've had. But other than that, it's like, and also learning how to chip away and saying, "Hey, man, you're not doing anything. You're doing a lot of complaining. I sure would love it because some people literally just feel comfortable complaining, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to tick them off, but
They're
as
already
long as
kicked off.
Yeah.
I know,
They're already
I
kicked
know,
off.
you can't. But that I did a lot of reflecting on that because
Mm.
you know,
Well, the number of people that do that if they had the chance to change, might take it, because what
Yeah.
they've known is the complaining
Yeah.
and only looking at the negative. But if they're invited to look at it differently, how could that change the way that they're teaching?
Yeah.
And so they are able to hopefully then come out of the teaching 1 year 20 times
Yeah.
to go, wow, I actually enjoy teaching again.
Yeah.
And it's not
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, this is just my job and I just have to do it and I'll retire soon.
Yeah.
To the, wow, this is why I got into this.
Yeah.
And maybe they still enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to assume that they don't enjoy it, but
That.
I just, to me, if you're teaching 1 year 20 times, do you enjoy it?
Have you
So
seen the movie Groundhog Day?
that's a great point. I want to point that out because I'm not talking because first of all, I created a bizarre class and I had a lot of freedom. So if you like, I have to teach this and the state is holding me accountable. I can understand why you're skeptical. I
Sure.
respect that.
Absolutely.
I just had this. I had one particular run in, and but if you're going to start talking about how much you don't like these kids, I'm going to bristle and say, this is one of the lowest points. I'll give you my 2 lowest points. This guy was like complaining, like he blah, 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 and he's like, these kids don't even like my class. And finally, I had it. I go, dude, you don't even like your class.
Holy crap!
And he's like, what? And I go, you don't even like your class. I'm like, you treat it with the same thing. You said you're bored. The kids are bored. I couldn't like. I probably should have just kept my mouth shut. But I go, dude, I couldn't take your class, but I did that. So you don't even like your class, and that was the end of that relationship. Uh,
Before it even began.
no, I mean, and this was, yeah, I should keep my mouth shut. But like, and then I had another teacher, and this is one I really regret, is that I had a student who was really probably more like you, very
Awesome. And
awesome, stunningly handsome.
yeah.
I won't even say which class he was taking, but he raised his hand, and she was lecturing, and he says, "Can I just take the test right now?" And she's like, "What?" And he goes, "I can ace it right now. I just would rather not listen to this anymore." And then she's like, "Well, then you'd want to do what?" He goes, "Go down to Mr. Wetrick's class and work on things that are actually meaningful."
Ooh.
And so you sit your butt down and all this other stuff. And I didn't know that. So a day later, she comes down. I don't want to get myself in trouble. But she came down and said, "Can you believe he said that?" She recounted this thing, and I was like, I didn't
Should
know
have lied.
No, and I said,
can't.
and I go, well, and I was trying to be fair. I was like, well, would he have aced the test right then and there? And she's like, what? I go, he said he could ace the test without listening to it. And then she got really mad. And I go, well, if the point of the class is to get a good grade and he can get a good grade, all the kid was asking is to come and work on things. And she says, you think that your class is so much better.
Mm.
And unfortunately, I said, it is. And I didn't mean it. I just meant it is to him.
Yeah.
It is because it'd be like saying, hey, you need to take your driving test. I can take it right now. I've been driving. Nope, you got to wait another 30 days. Like, I understood the student could have had more patience. And I really regretted that when I said that, the die was cast. Right.
Yeah.
And I kind of apologized and should have done a job.
I mean, that's
But my
like
question
marriage and parenting. That
I know,
you-
but like, let the kid take the class. I mean,
Yeah.
take the test. Like, he's like, he was too bold. Like, can I just take this? I want to leave.
Yeah.
And I could have said it better, but that was, I don't know. Maybe we should edit this out. Like, I felt really bad.
Yeah.
I felt really bad.
To me, that's normal though. Now maybe in the environment of in the teacher world, it's like you say that one time and it's like it still lingers. With me, I've said stuff. The amount of grace and forgiveness my wife has given me, like
A lot.
where my wife's like, "Hey, can you believe your son?" Da, da, da. I'm
Thank
like,
you, Tara.
"Yeah,
Yeah. That's me.
yeah,"
Yeah.
and then it's like,
Yeah.
and then I have to work through it, and then but that's 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a teaching, if everyone's so sensitive in teaching that like you can't agree with the child about one thing at one particular time without it
Yeah.
kind of being like, well, I don't like him anymore. Well, that's your own fault. Like
Right.
your marriage probably
Well,
sucks too.
but I didn't want to create a powder keg of like,
Right.
which ironically enough, I just work with teachers now. It's just, this was really early, before this all started. And I still feel guilt on how I said it, but it's a powder keg of emotion because I'm sure she was doing the best she could.
Yeah.
And she was teaching where most of the other students could not just ace the test without listening. This
Yep.
young man was gifted in math. But I think like that was one of the biggest regrets of
Yeah.
like, if I'm going to make this a movement and try to get teachers involved, I shouldn't say you're wrong for not giving the students some freedom. And yet also like, you might want to consider giving them some freedom. So,
Yeah. And the cool thing is though, from what it sounds like, you've taken that and what you learned from that experience and said, how can I apply this
Yeah.
to move forward so that, especially working with teachers,
Yeah.
and not the student side, you're able to take that and spin it and go, okay,
mhm.
how do I make this so that I don't make that mistake?
Yeah.
I mean, part of that's maturity and length of time in it, but yeah, to be able to go, don't want to do that. See it, change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep my mouth shut even. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm still learning how to keep my mouth shut.
Same.
43 years in.
A couple of thoughts I had just like thinking through this whole thing. So you as a teacher, you were good at your job as a teacher. You heard a video. It got you to think differently than where you like if you've been teaching for like 15 years a certain subject or what, you almost as a human being, you almost take pride in your ability to be a great teacher at this or whatever. you had to, when you started this, you had to go back to being curious and almost being a student again. Like, I'm no longer the teacher. I'm coming to class to learn with these kids and to learn from them, to help them. And so to one thing that I see is that some of the best teachers that will be able to embrace this the way that you have or others have, they don't have the pride in what
Yeah.
they're good at, but they're willing to show up to class to learn while alongside a leader. I always say, like, a leader isn't the one with the answers. A leader is the one who says, hey, i will I will lead the way
Right.
on us figuring out what the answer is together.
Right.
The great leaders are the ones that step out and will be the first to admit, like, it's going to take a lot more to get there than what I have or know right now. And all of us, and they put themselves on the side of the follower, but they are following the lead. They're not seeing themselves as, I'm the lead, follow me.
Yeah.
And it's like the explorers. Like, you have to be willing to be that explorer, not be that person who's arrived to a destination and now you're trying to get everyone to it. And I think that that's where, like, a lot of these silos and echo chambers happen. Is if you are stuck in a silo or an echo chamber, those are people who we've all come to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
And instead of exploring and discovering anymore, we're going to battle those. We're at one conclusion, others are at a different conclusion. Let's battle each other to see who's right. And the truth is, you're both wrong.
Right.
Because you both have stopped. The movers and shakers you talk about. But I don't know if there's an assessment or anything like that maybe all the teachers could take it, and it's like maybe there's a certain assessment that shows, like, this is the type of teacher that it will show up saying that. Because, like, with you, you're like, well, I've been doing this for 10 years, and the truth is, like, the key is I don't really know what I'm doing. And,
Right.
and you're like, but then I start talking to others, and it's like, none of us know what we're doing.
Right.
But you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Which,
Yeah.
ironically enough, I mean, what's the point of school? It's to prepare you for the future. What are the things of the future? We're figuring it out.
yes.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
what is it? What does they say? Every time you want to invest, past returns do not predict future outcomes. That's life, man.
Yeah.
So, like, we've always done it that way. Is the death? So yeah, education is this great opportunity to figure out what's going to be, and what's going to be is we're all figuring it out. There's some great things we all need to learn, and we have rooted in fundamentals, but there's a lot of it's like, yeah, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Solving interesting problems in leadership.
Yeah.
There we go.
What else do you have? Anything we didn't ask? Anything
No, man.
fresh or new?
If you're listening or watching, if you know that right now we're high school only, we're thinking about going backwards and doing some things in middle school. But if you know of that high school educator, let us know. I'm more active on LinkedIn. Some of the other social media platforms are a little too political right now. Just don't care. I should say don't care. So yeah, at Don Wettrick, and yeah, just we got the state final. We got regional finals, depending on when this airs. We got regional finals. We got 6 of them in April. Our big state finals is in June.
Where's that at? Butler?
Butler's Auditorium.
Okay.
In June, and well, knock your socks off, man. It's something else. It's
Nice.
every year we get this backhanded compliment of that was actually really good.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. Every year, the word actually that was actually really good. And I'm like,
Oh.
they thought they were going to hear some kids with some big ideas, and there are students that they do have big ideas, but that they actually built it.
Yeah.
They have a real plan to. Wow. So
Yeah. And TED Talks and stuff. You've done a few of those. You did one and had trained up Kenny Moore, and he did one.
thank you for providing space.
That
Yes.
was a great time.
Colts
Nice.
cornerback. Thank you for providing that space. Yeah. I convinced Kenny to do a TED Talk same time I did. So
Yeah, yours was awesome. Both of yours were awesome.
Thank you.
But, like, he don't need a compliment. He already knows he's all.
Yeah, he talked about scoring. He's talked about getting 2 pick sixes in one game, and I was talking about My favorite.
And he loved teacher, like
yeah.
the impact that he's had
He's
that
great.
has been made on him because of a teacher. Like that's a
Actually, that's the story he shared. I shot there at Synergize. Yeah, he sends all of his cleats and his gloves to his former teachers. Shout out Kenny Moore.
Yeah, bro.
I know.
He's like, they're not getting paid a whole lot, so I'll send them some cleats and gloves, and when I make it to the Hall of Fame, they can sell it.
Great guy.
Retirement.
Nice.
So yeah,
Awesome. Do you have any other questions or thoughts?
Oh,
Or
this has been great. Thank
thanks,
you.
man. Appreciate the spot. Appreciate the reflection. Thanks for going deep on some nice
Yeah.
philosophical things.
what's the next 10 look like for you? What's the dream?
Yeah. So the team's getting big enough now where I'm going to be doing a lot more outbound. I'm going to be
Okay.
visiting we're meeting a lot of business leaders and state leaders and national leaders and trying to make a dent in the education system. One teacher at a time. So
A
little
lot
bit
of
more
the
outbound.
education looks like might be coming back to the States.
Yeah.
Is that so, remove politics out of it, but from your perspective and a teacher's perspective, does that an advantage to you or a disadvantage?
It's a non-issue. I mean, I wasn't ever going to go to the Department of Education. I go to the individual teachers.
Yeah.
I can't have a bureaucracy.
Yeah. So it doesn't really affect you at all.
Doesn't make any difference.
You just need those teachers that.
For real.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I only need 3 or 4 per high school. That's it.
That's it.
You teach algebra, keep teaching algebra. We need that. You teach science, keep teaching science. We need that.
So teach art, we don't need that no more. No, I'm just
more than ever. We need that. So yeah,
I loved art.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
But no, reach out to me.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well,
Thanks, guys, for
thank you.
Thank you.
This is the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Stick around and watch the credits roll.
And then come back next time.